Hey everybody, Hydra here, and today I am making an OB19 support guide. This guide will basically cover a couple items and builds and, talking about a lot of different playstyle niches and stuff like that. I think that YouTube is kind of lacking on that educational, content side of Smite 2 content. So I want to try and fill in the guides and stuff like that myself. If you guys like this kind of content, then please support it. Give it a like, give it a, comment, do whatever, give it a view. Share it with your friends and stuff like that. It makes it a lot easier for me to make this content if you guys do that. But without further ado, let's kind of get into this guide. So I'm going to be making build guides, or I guess like just general content, support guides in a gods tab. So you guys will be able to access these in game as well. They'll be published under my name. So you're just going to go right here, search it, and you can find the exact name here. I'll be doing this for the foreseeable future. So whenever a new support guide drops, you guys will just be able to find whatever god I put it on and search it up, and you'll kind of see everything that's here. I'm not going to make these every patch, only when something drastic changes. So without further ado, let's talk about the OB19 kind of support lifestyle that we can get into. Alright, so first to start off, I want to talk about just some general build tips, discussion kind of things for the support role. First things first, there is no standard build for supports. I want to just let everyone know that very clearly. There's never going to be one correct build. If you take away nothing else from this video, here's a nice little quick example build of one thing that you could buy in a game, and it will probably work 9 times out of 10. It's just a really, kind of generic support build. You're going to have that heroism starter, you're going to have that life binder, and you're going to have a lot of protection, to get a little bit of CD in your build. These 4 items right here will kind of get you through the game. I didn't do a 6-item build because I didn't think there was really a point. A couple things I do want to talk about was that you can kind of build any starter here. I will talk about starters here in a second. But one thing that I want to highlight something is that in this update, we got something called curios. In the curios, let me just hit this edit button here really quick. For curios, you have your Bifrost shard, which is like that Smite 1 vision shard. It's just a free ward that you get to place on the ground. You have that Yaller flare. It is think of a Raven ward from Smite 1, except it does not give you vision as it is traveling. It travels through walls, and you pop it to get a large area of vision. And then you get the Heimdallr sight. It is the kind of anti-ward pulsing kind of relic. It also reveals invis. Think of those proximity wards from Smite 1. I think that out of all of these 3 options, the Yaller flare is going to be the most fun to play with, but also the most versatile. This is going to be a very, very good tool for you. We also got the ward chalice. The warding chalice is going to be back here in this update. So definitely try to play around with these items. Definitely be the person that's giving your team a lot of vision here. In terms of relics here, I also want to talk about Sunder. You have a couple different options for relics and support. You can go that beads if you feel like you need it. That shell might be good against some gods like Yemoja and Odin. But for the most part, if you're just starting out playing support, or if you're newer to the support role, just get Sunder. It's going to be your job to be securing its objectives. Maybe you want to be looking to secure your own buff, invade the enemy's buff, and that entire task will be a lot easier when you have a nice little button of true damage that has a very fixed value. So definitely play around with Sunder, practice securing your objectives with Sunder, practice securing your buffs with Sunder, and just kind of get used to playing around with that tool. Going on to the starting items, we kind of touched on them a little bit before, but starting items are going to be kind of the lifeblood of support. I think both support starters are completely viable. You can build either one of them, depending on the game. At least in my opinion, I think it's basically down to personal preference of how you want to play, your laning phase and your team fights. Where do you want to be strong as a support? If the enemy team has maybe 1 CC that they are setting up off of, maybe a Scylla root or a Thor wall, and you want to be able to shield your ally that is getting hit by that maybe single target CC, or maybe just that one person needs to step up and you're going to be near them and you want to be able to shield them from that CC, this starter will be very, very good. Also, if you want to play around maybe getting that movement speed, getting a little bit more sustain around those sieges, right? As you're killing those minion waves, you're fighting in those waves a lot. I think War Flag will also be a very, very good option for you. People like to think about this as like a, passive versus, aggressive starter choice. I don't think you should think about these starters that way. It's more of like, can I use the passive of heroism this game? Do they have a lot of CC? Or do they have very little CC, but that's the only way they can commit? If the answer is yes, then go heroism if you like it. And then if they don't have that and you just want to, move a little bit faster, you can value some attack speed, you like the sustain that this is also giving you, then just go War Banner. Genuinely, this choice will not impact the way that you play the game 9 times out of 10. It's really just down to personal preference, in my opinion. Both starters are completely good. You can build them really whenever you want. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the early game items that you want to be building here. So, at least in my opinion, for an early game item, it is basically going to be, am I building in my first 3 item slots? Will it get value? Will it be good in a 6 item build if I bought it early? Should I be selling it? Will it be a mistake? Here I have a couple items listed here that I think bring a lot of early game value to, the support role in general. And you guys might be noticing that more than half of them have health regen on them. I'll talk about health regen here very, very briefly. Health regen is just the amount of health that you're regenerating per second. If you have the tier 1, which it will be, wait a minute. If any of your items end up building out of this sash as the tier 1 component, you're going to be happy. This is the best tier 1 component for supports in the game because it gives them their best stat, health regen. Health regen will allow you to take trades in that early laning phase, more so than 10 fist prots or 10 magical prots, anything like that. If you're getting this, health regen stat, you're just regenerating more HP than the enemy, which is going to be very, very invaluable during your laning phase. All of these items here, well, not all of them, but most of them, build out of this tier 1, so you have a really good early laning phase when you're coming out of base, and then you get a really good power spike. Next, let's talk about each item very, very briefly. Lifebinder is going to be at least my premier favorite item for supports on this new patch. Lifebinder is going to be giving you 3 health regen, 300 max health, and 50 intelligence at a really, really good gold cost. It does fire a line projectile that will be doing 110 damage. It will heal you for 110, and then it also shields you for 110. That amount will be increasing per level, so towards the late game you'll be doing a little bit more damage with it and healing and shielding slightly more. But at least on purchase at level 1, if you had it, it is a 330 HP swing in trades. And you can proc it multiple times. You can mark, all 5 enemy gods, and you can consume the mark every single time after it runs out. It is a very, very good active item on a very, very short cooldown. Get used to using this item if you're not familiar with it already. Next is going to be Stampede. It's like, the Sprint Relic from Smite 1. It's going to be giving you slow immunity. You get a 60% movement speed increase on a very, very short cooldown. 90-second cooldown is going to be very, very good. It is a physical defense item, so if you're into a double magical duo lane, which is pretty common, maybe you're laning into Agni or Bari, and they have an Ares or a Yemoja, and that's 2 magical gods. You don't probably want to be building this first, but into a matchup where their jungler is a physical damage dealer, their ADC is physical damage dealer, and most of the damage is going to be coming out is going to be from those sources in your duo lane. This is a really, really good option to pick up for you. This is an option that doesn't have health regen, but it is still a very, very good early game item. It is Eye of Providence. Whenever you build it, you get 25 of each prot, you get 250 max HP, but you also get a sentry ward on a 60-second cooldown as part of the active item. It's going to be a lot of vision, and in a patch where everybody just got given free vision, this is going to be very, very effective in the early and mid game, especially in the late game as well. You also get a nice gold spooling passive that basically tells you whenever you kill a ward, you get 50 additional gold. This item, before this last patch, could already pay for itself if you're really good and built it very early. Now it's going to be giving you a lot of vision, a lot of anti-vision as well. So definitely feel free to pick this up in your games if you think you can get away without building that health regen. Trident's Conch is it's very interesting. I think this item is very, very good. It's one of the only true aura items we have left in the game. If your team chooses to fight around you, then they are just by default stronger than the other team. It is very, very funny. I would look to put this item on characters that scale off of every aspect it gives you. Jormungandr support is a very good option. He scales off of max health, intelligence, and strength. Bacchus with aspect also scales in a very similar way, so that's why it's going to be very effective on those characters. I'm going to talk about Spirit Robe and Magi's Cloak kind of together. These items are am I getting hit with CC in a support build? Yes, I'm getting one of these. Do you want a bubble that will probably, protect you from 1 CC? If they only have the 1 or 2 CCs that can probably pop it, then yeah, this is going to be a very, very good pickup. Are you going to be getting CC'd constantly by a lot of different sources? And would it, pop the bubble very quickly and you lose that value? Yes, then probably get Spirit Robe. Both of these items are very, very good. You can build them together in both builds, by the way, and it's going to be very effective for you to stay alive as a support player. I really quickly want to talk about Regrowth Striders just because it was being built a lot in the past. I think this item did get nerfed a lot, but on the characters that can use it, it's still not a bad first or second item. It does give you that cooldown rate that some builds really want, but it just doesn't have that health regen. I think health regen is probably one of the best stats you can get right now. in terms of a first or second item for supports. So it makes regrowth traders feel a bit awkward. While it doesn't have that health regen built in, it does have a health regenning passive. So if you are building War Flag and you are still going Regrowth Striders, you will still be sustaining a very large amount of your health. So it's not a bad option for you at all if this is what you're comfortable building. And Mushroom. Mushroom I want to talk about. It's not as popular as I think it should be. I think it's more popular on, like, kind of backline supports. It has a decent heal. It's, gonna be 3% of your health heal every 1.5 seconds, which is gonna be really good, but also gives you damage reduction. I like to build this on characters like Khepri, and pretty much only Khepri actually, because he can stack his own damage reduction on top of it. But it is actually a very good utility item. It's pretty cheap in the early game, 2350. It's gonna be the total cost of this item as well. Has really decent health regen. Has a lot of max health as well. So if you do build it first, you'll be somewhat tanky. If you spam it down in, around your objective fights in the early game, you will be able to take a lot of really interesting trades. So definitely shout out to that. Moving on from the kind of, first early game items that you can be building, counter building is a big part of support. This is, I think, a really big reason of why support doesn't have a standard staple build, is because there's so many different items that you might need between, game to game that vary from game to game. So I just want to kind of highlight a couple of those. I'm not going to go super in depth into what all of these do, like the first items do. I feel like you guys need to understand what these do and what value they bring. If you are interested in the kind of seeing what these items do, I'll kind of explain some of the outlier ones that aren't, immediately obvious. But yeah, I'll explain some of the counter build options here. So you're picking these up not every game. You're picking them up when you need them, but when you need them, they are very, very good. Tally Beads is going to be good into a very punishing CC. Do they have an Ares support who ends up getting through picks and bans somehow? Can we please nerf that character already? If the answer is yes, then you might be building Talisman of Purification first or second item, just to make sure that your team is not getting threatened by his ultimate, and just make sure that ultimate's not bringing that value. Same thing for maybe a Hecate or a Fenrir or something like that, right? A little bit less so for those gods, but maybe you're building a Magi's or a Hexstone instead. But any big, punishing CC like a Hunbat's ult or an Ares ult is going to be getting shut down by Talisman Purification. Spectral Armor will be getting built up into things that are going to be building crit. If you see Mercury, this is not a bad item just to build first, just so you have it. You can build it first, second, third, something like that. But if you see crit getting built early, you can just pick up this item. It's obviously going to be very good against those crit builds, but you can also pick it up into just multiple auto attack gods. It does have an attack speed slow and an aura, and if you're going to be in the face of multiple auto attackers, it's going to be pretty decent for you there as well. Erosion will be the anti-shielding item I want to kind of give a shout out here. There's a couple anti-shielding items this patch, but I think if you're a support, you're probably building this one. Just minus 30% shields. It's going to be scaling your protections as well. It's overall just pretty good. If they have something like a Nemesis or an Odin, you can definitely go this erosion item instead. Talking about Screeching Gargoyle, it is a very dedicated magical defense item, has a little bit of cooldown on it, but it is a silence and a protection shred. It's minus 10% protections. The active's on a really low cooldown. We were seeing this get built a lot in the early days of Smite 2. I think it got nerfed quite a bit there, but if they have a very good channel ability, or you want to, if you want to like kind of lock down one person, Hades hates this item. If he ever dashes in, you just gargoyle him and he can't play the game. You're not seeing Hades a ton right now, but if you ever do, again, it's a situational item. Anytime where you can find a use for this item, I think it's not a bad pickup. Hussar's Wings is just going to be a very expensive item. If they have like 5 different slows, definitely pick up this item. It has a lot of HP. If this item was like 3,000 gold, it'd probably get built every game. It's just a 3.5k luxury item, but when it does feel good, it feels very, very good. I like to build it on Yorm just because his passive does slow him when he gets CC'd. It's not something that I'm always gonna be gravitating towards. It's like if they have a slow and I'm Yorm and I'm also slowing myself, this item will make the game feel infinitely better for you. Overall, there's gonna be more, kind of counter build options, that I haven't listed here. I've just listed a couple here. Scepter Dominion will be, countering Burst. Maybe they have a Thor that's ulting in their backline, and your backline already use Aegis, because you can only have one relic in this game. Maybe you can drop this to immune a big Vulcan ult or something like that, right? Hexstone's going to be a little bit more aggressive, an item as well, give you that movement, but it also gives you that CC immunity. You can use it into things like Ares, use it into things like, the final tick of Guan Yu ult or something like that, right? You can use a lot of these items in very, very specific situations, and you're going to be finding a lot of value here. I think the important part that I want to highlight for this section is just to be thinking about what you're building, past that second item spot. Look at the enemy team and say, what do I need to get value out of my character? If they have an Ares, Talisman Purification is going to be a very easy pickup. If you see a Mercury, Spectral is going to be very good. If you see Nemesis and Odin, then Erosion might not be a bad shot as your 4th or 5th item. If you are, I guess I'll talk about Ansel very, very quickly. If you have an ability that can hit multiple people and it kind of, ruins their team fight, then, like a Ganesha Cage. You can drop your Ganesha Cage, and if they ever walk out of it, then they all get silenced. Stuff like that, right? Anything that you can do to bring an impact, like if you can amplify the amount of impact you're bringing in a team fight, I think that's always going to be something that will be important to keep in mind. Next, I want to talk about cooldown. Cooldown is a very, very good stat in Smite 2. There's air quotes no cap on cooldown, but there's like diminishing returns on cooldown. Every build wants cooldown, but you don't need cooldown to function. You should always be aiming to get it. I do think it's a very important stat for you to be getting. And I want to kind of highlight a couple of those options that you can end up building really, really quickly. I think my favorite option to go for cooldowns for Ace tiers, it's just a very well setted item. It has a pretty decent passive. It scales with the other protections as well that I would like to be building. So I think it's going to be a very good item, for just finding our cooldown purposes. It has 20 CD on it. It's going to be very hard to find that much CD in another, spot and still make me feel tanky. Breastplate does have that 20 CD, has some mana regen, has a pretty cool passive as well, but it's more physical focused. Same thing with Genji's. Genji's has 15 CD, more magical focused, right? But their passives are going to be reducing the cooldowns even more. So again, these two items are never bad. Like 2 patches ago, I think I was building them both in the same build anyway. So you could go breastplate Genji's and just kind of run at people. Have a lot of CD that way and be pretty tanky to both types. And then, I think in this patch though, where I'm not, slamming 2 items worth of cooldown, maybe I'm just going to go for that phrase tiers. If you think you can get away with it, you can build one of these damage cooldown options. Chronos Pendant is going to be fine. It has that intelligence scaling. It has 25 CD on it though. So if you're not getting another, cooldown item, it's not a bad shout out for you. Hindu Man just got online. What's up, Hindu? I think my personal favorite though is kind of the Spear of Desolation, because not because of its built-in cooldown, it only has that 10 CD, but because of its passive. Non-ultimate cooldowns get reduced by 3 seconds on a kill or an assist, but your ultimate cooldown gets reduced by a whopping 10 seconds. They buffed this item in Smite 1 the same way, and it was literally broken. This item is going to be very, very good as just a, kind of cooldown option. If you have no other cooldown in your build and you just have Spear of Desolation, because your cooldowns are higher, you get more value from the passive of Spear of Desolation because it has more cooldown to take off. It is very funny. The flat numbers are going to be, even better on a low, on a low CD build. So I do think it's going to be a very decent shot for you. If you just need a cooldown item, just throw this in your build. Prots are fake anyway. Supports are dying in 5 autos. It doesn't matter. Propaganda aside, it's still a very, very good item. Prophetic Cloak is an item that I want to be good so badly. It just takes too long to stack it, and the payoff isn't nearly as good as it was in Smite 1 in my opinion, right? It's a dual prot item. It's pretty well set in terms of prots. The CD's pretty good. It's just that the passive's kind of lackluster, and it takes a while to get to that passive. If you buy it first or second, it's not bad. It just feels bad when you buy it. You're buying this item for the late game, and the question is, are you going to get there to the late game? If you get there, then it might feel really, really good. It's just a question of, are you going to get there or not? And then I think the rest are going to be pretty, self-explanatory. Totem of Death is if you're ahead and, you need pen just to kill the enemy faster, you can go Totem of Death. World Stone would only be reducing your ultimate cooldown by 30%. Some people like this on gods like Emoja and Capri. I'm not the biggest fan of this item particularly, but it is a decent, cooldown shout, I guess. Heartwood Charm is going to be good for those healing characters. You get a free charge of your healing ability if you do use it, and all of your healing cooldowns all just go down by 20%. So it's really like a 30. It's actually more than 30% CDR just because of how that works. It's an interesting item. It's a bit too expensive, I think, to see it built all the time, and healing did get kind of gutted. So you're kind of buying this for the utility. Dawn's a Jug is a heal. Nemesis Shield is a heal. So some weird supports can use this item a little bit better than the actual traditional, mainstay supports. But otherwise, I think you're not going to be seeing a lot of these options, these 4 options. You're not going to be seeing them every game. But definitely, like, you know, some of these, like, first 3 options for sure, you're probably going to be seeing a lot more often. These damage items might be a good shout every now and then as well. I would add another entry here if I could, which just kind of explains like how to like position and stuff like that, and like, you know, laning phase and team fights. I might make a video about kind of positioning and laning and stuff like that as, you know, as the week goes on and stuff like that. But at least right now, this has been kind of a general overview of the way I think about building. Again, I'm just me. You know, I play at a pretty high level. I play in, you know, deity, demigod lobbies consistently. I've done competitive for a long time. So the way I think about the game is different than the traditional person that's playing the game. If you are just learning if you're just learning Smite 2 and you're just learning my role, then again, this first build up here will be plenty for you to get started and hop in the queues and start having fun and start learning this role. If you want to, you know, start climbing ranked and stuff like that, hopefully a little bit of the info and some of my reasoning kind of helped you guys you know, kind of understand the way that I play and the way that I find success. If you guys have any questions, leave them for me in the comments below. I'm more than willing to discuss things, you know, agree or disagree with you. You know, I'm definitely open to a dialogue for sure for this. Either way, I'll catch you guys all later. I almost did my stream sign out love. Peace out, peace out, peace out. But I'll catch you guys all on the YouTube side of things later. Thank you guys for tuning in.